Today we're going to have a look at the features of rectangles and squares. Did you know that all squares have the same features? They have 4 straight edges, all the same length, and 4 corners. It doesn't matter what size the square is, or which way the square is facing. A square is always a square. Here are some squares that you might see in everyday life. Here we've got lots of little squares that, when joined together, make a big square. Here is a bookcase that uses 3 different size squares. This kind of looks like the tiles in my bathroom. And here we've got black shapes and red shapes, both squares, that when put together make a really cool pattern. Now let's have a look at the features of rectangles. All rectangles have the same features. 4 straight edges, 2 shorter edges, and 2 longer edges. The 2 shorter edges are always opposite each other. The 2 longer edges are always opposite each other. And there are 4 corners on a rectangle. It doesn't matter what size the rectangle is, or which way the rectangle is facing. A rectangle is always a rectangle. Here are some rectangles that you might recognize in everyday life. We use this one a lot. It's an iPad. Here is the side of a house. It has lots of rectangles all built together. Here we have a shape that we might see at home or in a classroom. And here I've drawn some rectangles using my dots to help me work out long sides or edges and short edges. So, what's the difference between a square and a rectangle? Well, let's compare. A square has 4 edges, all the edges are straight, all the edges are the same length, and it has 4 corners. A rectangle also has 4 edges, so that's the same. They also have edges that are straight, so that's the same. They have 4 corners, that's the same. The only difference between a square and a rectangle is the length of the edges. The rectangle has 2 long and 2 short, whereas the square has edges all the same length. That's your only difference between a square and a rectangle. Okay, here's a little challenge for you. How many rectangles and squares can you see in this picture? Pause your video here, take a screenshot of this page, and see if you can find out how many rectangles and how many squares, remembering the difference between each one. So, do you know the difference between squares and rectangles?